Hello everyone, welcome to another video. So this is going to be a follow-up video to to my previous video when I talked about how I was able to use Claude AI to build a website. And in this video, I'm going to make due on my promise where I talked about what if we could use Claude AI to create an actual brand guideline. But the good thing here is that what I did was I created a brand guideline that can also be editable, which means even if what was given to you isn't really what you were expecting, but at least you can edit it. But anyway, let's just jump right into this particular video. So when I made mention of using Claude AI for a brand guideline, I was really, really serious about it. Sorry, I didn't do it as a live video, but I made sure that I did it as a recorded session because of my busy schedule. So now let's quickly go right in. Now, one thing you need to note is that in order for Claude AI to be able to execute the brand guideline the way you want it, one thing you need to note is that Claude AI or that particular chart need to have a history of the client and everything you're doing for the client. At least there should be a context because when you're coming up with a brand guideline, it needs some wordings to use. Something like for the mission statement, for the vision statement, about the brand. No, those little things, those things that you normally put as write up in the brand guideline. Claude AI need to have a context about that. So the way I make this happen is that I use Claude AI now as a, how will I call it, a collaborator. Now I always say something about using AI. I always say AI shouldn't be used as a wheelchair. AI shouldn't be totally dependent on. Instead, use AI as a collaborator. So where you would have needed maybe an extra hand to collaborate with you and all of that. You could use AI to, to collaborate, to brainstorm and all of that. So basically what I simply did was that I just, from the client brief, right? This is the client brief, which was in the PDF format, right? So the client already listed out a lot of things. So let me just quickly download the brief so that you get to see. So here is the brief, right? So this is the brand identity design brief from the client. So after the client finished putting everything together, putting all of their necessary things they needed, what I basically did was to take the brief, right? It was to take the brief and then I brought it into Claude AI and then I gave it this simple prompt for it to understand the context. So I said I'm about to work on the brand and logo vision and blah blah blah. So my own is to for it to help me brainstorm. Although in the PDF the client had already, how will I put it, in the PDF the client had already stated their brand colors that they hope to actually make use of. They stated it somewhere. Yes, this is it. They even gave us the hex code, so it made the job easy for me to implement. So the client already gave me the hex code and the color direction they wanted, just to hasten the footstep. And although when I researched on the color palette, it really made sense for the brand that the client is going for. Yes, it really made sense. It's sort of an NGO climate, African, you know, brand itself. So this particular colors really made sense. So I told it to brainstorm so that we can come up with some, logo ideas that we could use for the stuff. And it kind of gave me a detailed stuff and broke it down for me. But it kind of gave me this logo concept, which definitely I would definitely, AI now, you can't work with the concept that AI gave to. But it gave me a very solid presentation, which I would say I really loved. This is the solid presentation that the AI gave to me. The presentation is very, if it gave it to me in HTML, it was kind of hallucinating because it kind of gave me, although it was kind of working on different logo concept anyway, but it brought out the hex code. And in fact, it used the colors, right, to work on the presentation, and it knew how to merge these colors properly. It didn't just put things together, it didn't just mix things up and down, just randomly did this. It actually puts things into good perspective. So it gave me this little presentation, so I can even use this method to present the logo idea, which I later came up with for the client. So this is basically everything it gave to me as a presentation. So why I'm showing you this is so that you understand why it gave me what it gave me in the brand guideline. But anyway, this was just the brainstorming session. So now let me quickly show you guys the logo which I finally did for the client, and I'm going to show you guys. So here is the logo, the logos that I finally did for the client. So I have the quick presentation, not the full detailed presentation, so that we don't waste our time here. So I did this logo. So this was the very first concept because the client wanted where they could implement the African map into the context, and it is a climate. It's an NGO that is all about the climate and all those kind of a thing. Anyway, so this was the first concept. So this is the um, first concept. This concept was actually made due of it's all about the atmosphere, energy radiating outward from the continent's form. It captures climate, emotion, air, weather, invisible forces made visible. It's the dynamism says climate span doesn't just study climate, it moves with it, bold, distinctive, and nothing like a typical NG. Yes, because that was something else the client made mention of. The client made mention of that they don't just want to look like a typical NGO. They want to have a fusion of corporate and NGO style, but not obviously NGO, if you understand what I'm trying to say. So that was basically everything the client said. Then we go move over to concept two. Now, this concept two was sort of a contour and to give a further depth onto Africa topography. So as I say, where concept one leads with energy, this one leads with credibility and strategy. And this is how it looks like. It's just the swirling of the stuff, and then I have the color palette that I finally, the color palette the client, listed for us, which was really nice. And here is the colors being implemented in the whole thing. So this is the color used in the first concept, and this is it. And then we have the word mark. So this is actually DM Sans, which we decided to go with for the brand. And then this is the concept two. But then in this concept two, I kind of gave two options. So this is the concept two, but I now have it in the two color variation for them to choose which one would they want to use as a major one. And this is it all around, and then we have this also. So basically this was just the two concepts that I gave to the client, though I worked on other concepts which I'm going to show you guys really soon. So here was where I worked on the logo. So I had to break down, using word brand nouns. So I broke down the brand nouns between climate and span. So I gave us some good brand nouns to separate between climate and span. And then I kind of created the creative anchor, which was this whole idea here. And then I went further to break down these other things. So here was the color concept, sorry, the logo concept I gave. So this was concept one, this was concept two, because the client was really leaning into the whole African map thing. So this is concept one, this is concept two, this is concept three, concept four, concept five, and concept six. So and then I even did a concept seven, and then I wanted to just add a little bit of an outline alone. Just consider it came last, so it wasn't really something I was buying into. But I just really felt maybe let me just give the client one outline, but it was still around this concept. But then one thing I love about this logo idea that I gave is that this is like the follow up to this sort of, and then this is like this germinated into this. I wanted to be. I felt this was too thick, so I wanted to create something a little bit more thinner, that kind of a thing, Then, but I love this idea sort of because it kind of gave that data-driven approach, which the brand is also all about. But unfortunately, we had to settle for this and this. But I love these two ideas because if you look at very well, right? If you look at very well, you can see that we have the different African maps. The African country maps inside of the African map. So if you look at very well, you see Nigeria here, and if you look at, we have the Nigerian map here. If you look at this other part, look at this other part here, we have this should be Benin Republic, Togo, and then Ghana. And if you look at very well, we have Benin Republic, Togo, Ghana. Then if you come down, we have, so you can see them all around. So this is South Africa down here. You can also see it here, South Africa down here. So this was carefully, like call it, crafted or created or designed to really give that illustrative idea. And then same thing happens here. You can see that Nigerian map also flowing here, but this was more on I wanted to do something modular, that kind of a thing, and which was also kind of, it was like a combination of something this and this. So I wanted to give the data-driven approach, those bar charts and everything, combined with what I did here, which was, so I was trying to use, and I wanted to make it free from because it's a map. It doesn't have to be totally smooth all around, and it has to have that control because it's a map. They don't have straight lines, or so that contour needed to be there to give it that extra human touch and free flowing approach. So basically, but one of the major things that made us want to go with either of these two ideas was scalability approach and visibility. So yes, if you look at it close up, it might look good and cool, but when you scroll out or like you zoom out, you can see that scalability, it doesn't really work. Now you can't really distinguish all those maps, all those things that was showing. You can't really distinguish. It's just like a full blown African map. You can't really tell what is inside compared to this other two, which I whether you zoom out or zoom in, you could still view them from afar. So basically, this was just a rundown, which I don't wanted to just show you guys, the other concept that I worked on. So let's go back into what we are working here. So now this was the logo concept I did for the client. Now it was time to do a brand guideline. Now I was preparing the brand guideline, although I was going to work on a brand guideline. But when I made mention of that in the video yesterday, I said, okay, I need to use this as an experiment for the brand guideline. So basically, it's already understood the context of the brand itself and everything. So what I needed to do was to tell it. So what I needed to do now was to tell it to go ahead and I started working on some content for the presentation anyway. So down here, I exported the SVG where the colors, the typography, sorry, the colors and the different logo options where I exported as an SVG, though it didn't turn out right, but then I gave it this particular prompt. So if you want me to give you this prompt, I think I'll make it available somewhere. I'll make this prompt available somewhere so that you can be able to copy it. So yeah, so I gave this prompt to for the different sections of the brand guidelines. So starting from this particular aspect, I said using the guide below for a proper design structure. First of all, I say using everything you know about the climate span initiative brand because it already has the brief, we already brainstormed together, so it has the memory of what climate span is all about. And using the attached SVG asset, which is now the main logo, which I now did for the client. So what I did was that which has the brand colors, the logo icon alone, the blah 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 blah. And I say I want you to help me design an editable Figma brand guideline document for the climate span drive. Now, not I was expecting to give you something like maybe .fig for those of you who use Figma to create your designs. There's something called .fig, just like we have in Photoshop is .psd. We have Affinity.af. We have Adobe Illustrator.ai. We have InDesign.indd or something like that. And then we have CorelDRAW.cdr. So Figma is .fig. So that was basically what I wanted it to give to me. But it didn't give me that, but I'm going to put you through everything. So I say using the guide below for a proper design structure, the first slide should just have text only reading brand guideline as usual. That first slide should just be brand guideline alone. However, moving further, I said in the subsequent slide, I want the introduction, which now has the brand strategy. This section says the motion, saying in page one, I need the brand story plus origin. Page two should be mission and vision. Page three, brand value, 3 to 5 core pillars, blah, blah, blah. Page four, personality and tone of voice. Then the section two is now going to be the logo section. I just wanted it to give me just 4 sections where we have the primary logo, the logo construction grid, the secondary logo lookups, the brand mark struck icon, color variations, logo misuse. I think that's it. Then we now go over to the color palette where I have the primary palette, then the page two will now have the logo icon, blah blah blah, typography. So I didn't go further than this because the other parts are just easy to do, like patterns, photography, because I know it cannot give me photography, right? So I just wanted to have a layer that I can just follow through. Since in fact, we all know that when it comes to brand guideline, these are like the most difficult parts. They are the most tasking and the most demanding. Things like photography, patterns, and then the mock-ups or iconography, all those things does not take time, right? So I can handle those ones by myself. So I just wanted to handle this hard part for me. So first, it kind of broke it down. It gave me everything, and then it gave me the HTML code. I was expecting .fig, but it didn't give me .fig. Anyway, one thing I didn't ask you to do was I didn't give it the right dimension to use, which is supposed to be maybe 9020 by 1080p, right? So it went ahead to use 1280 times 720 frame, which is still okay as long as it is in landscape. So this is basically the brand guideline that it gave to me. You can also go and view the code that it used to give me the brand guideline. These are the code that it used. And then Claude AI is just really amazing. So this is the code it used, and this is the brand guideline in view. Now you can't really view because it's a landscape kind of a thing, so you can't really view that much. So anyway, as usual, I went ahead and I published the artifact, and here we have the brand guideline in view. This is the brand guideline. This is an actual document. Like, and I also indicated that yes, in the prompt, I let it know that in terms of the typography section, the main and only font for the brand is DM Sans. So it understood that concept because for DM Sans that I'm using for the brand, it understood that this is DM Sans and it sorted out DM Sans. Thankfully, DM Sans is a free font which is available for both personal and commercial use. So it's an open source font. So I believe that's one of the major reasons why it was easy. It was able to get the font and made use of it, and that is the font it made use of. So here we have it, climate span, brand guideline. This is the first page as usual. Visual and verbal identity set for climate span initiative, a reference for everybody who creates on behalf of the brand. Really cool. Then we have the second page, brand strategy, the brand story, where we begin. Climate span exists, blah blah blah. It gave me the presentation is so cool. Everything is so nice. These are the mission and the vision. This is the mission and the vision statement, and it is using the brand colors to actually execute this thing. That is even what is more amazing. It is using the brand colors to execute this, and it understood that okay, in this place I need to use maybe a darker shade of this blue for the main background, and it is using, like I said, it is using the brand colors to do this thing. So we now have the five pillars. It gave me the five pillars. And if I go ahead, how the brand speaks, this is the verbal identity, the personality, and the tone. And this is it right here. It gave it to me. We have the do, we have the don't, we have the do, and we have the don't. This is so really, really nice. And then we have the primary logo. Now, this was the logo it kind of came up with, but let's just overlook this part and just continue on. But at least we have the logo itself. Then we have the logo construction and grid, blah, blah, blah. Now we have that. Then we have the flexible configuration, which is now the different layers. We have it has the horizontal, it has the vertical, and we have the word mark only. It discarded the SVG file I sent to it, but since it already had the color, it was able to do all of that. It even had a usage note. Like, and we now have the brand mark alone, just the logo mark alone. It now position it in the different color palettes. And we now have the approved background pairings. We now have what not to do. This is the logo do's and don'ts. And then we have the four color. It gave us the SVG, the ROGB, the CMYK, and I don't know what is PMS. Maybe I'll do a research on that on what PMS means, but I'll do a PMS on that. But it gave us the hex code, the ROGB, the CMYK code. It gave us the name of the color itself: deep climate blue, environmental teal, earth gold, soft teal white. And then we have the contrast approved pairings. So it gave us the approved contrast pairings. And then it gave us the logo and wordmark pairings, blah blah blah. How much each color should be used. Like it broke everything down. And then we now have the typography section where we have the DM SAS itself, a foundry. It gave us who created the fonts, the classification, the geometric sans serif, the usage available. It gave us the link on where the clients can actually download the the font, and it gave it to us in full alphabet, both in capital letter and small letter. It gave us the different weights of the fonts. This is just from a prompt, bro. Your brand guideline is ready from a prompt, your brand guideline is there. Then he gave us the hierarchy, the type hierarchy. He gave us the heading one, the heading two, the heading three, the body text, the caption and label, and he gave us examples of how that can be done. He gave us examples, and it's using and the good thing about this is that it's not just putting it random words. It's actually using words that are relatable to the brand because it was already following me from the brainstorming stage. So it already knows everything about the brand. So it knows the right words to use in the brand itself. So then we have end of document. So now from here, I can now go ahead and then add the remaining, how will I call it? I can now add the remaining slides, like maybe I can now go over to the photography session, add photographs. I can now go over to the, I can go over to the, how will I call it? Then I can go over to the iconography. Then I can now go over to the mockups, and then go over to the mockups and start working on the mockups itself. I can just duplicate the pages and just add the mockups. But the major thing is that it got it right, and all these things are editable. Now, how can you edit it? First, normally I would have just used this link, but before I go over how can you now edit it in Figma, it's now the main bone of contention. Now, how can you edit this in Figma? You need to have this plugin called HTML.to.design. That is HTML to design. So you need to have this plugin in order for you to be able to edit this brand guideline or to edit the brand guideline in Figma. Okay, it's actually a very nice plugin. But then there's something about the plugin you need to note. So let's go over into the plugin and see how we can implement the brand guideline. So now I need to go over and I need to click on plugin. I already saved my plugin. I already saved it here. This is the HTML to design. I'm going to wait for it to load up, and the plugin is going to load up, right? So once the plugin loads up, the next thing I need to do is to bring in whatever I want to convert. So it's going to take the HTML and then it's going to convert it into a design. Now, technically, what you need to do is that you have two options. You can either bring it in as a URL or you can drag and drop if you have the HTML code downloaded as a normal file. So one thing you need to note is that if you bring it in as just a URL, it won't, at least in this case, it's not going to do you justice. So this is what happens when you bring it in as just an HTML, sorry, as a URL. So which means if you decide to go ahead and say, oh, I already have the link here, and you decide to copy this link, right? Or you decide to come here and you maybe you copied what, let me just say you copied this link because it is showing here, it's not going to import well. So this is how it is going to import for you. I don't even know what is going on here. This is how it's going to import for you. If you want to import it as an actual design, what you need to do is to come back to your stuff and then you will need to download this as the HTML. You will need to download it. So you download the HTML. You can either download it from here or you can come here and click on download. So now your HTML code is downloaded. You can see it here. It is downloaded. So what you need to do is to come in here, you click on this place, you can browse or you can just drag and drop. So let's say we decide to drag and drop. So we come here and we drag and drop our HTML code. So we drag and drop it in. And then yes, there are some pro features. I've already experimented on it, but yeah, you can decide to say you don't use auto layout. For those of you who understand auto layout, create styles and variables. So you can create styles like color styles, and all those things. But me, I would like to create the style. So I need to create the color style so I can easily replicate it. So I just create on color styles, use existing locals. I don't have existing local style for hover effects. I don't, it's not like the website. I want to edit the stuff. So now what I need to do is to click on proceed. Now it is going to round like load up, and it is going to import my my stuff as an actual editable Figma file. So as you can see, my brand guideline is imported. And brand guideline is imported. It's loading up. You can see it at this corner here. You can see it is loading up here. It's loading up. Just give it a moment so I can complete. As you can see, it has also created the styles on this side. And there you go, import is complete. So all I need to do is to click on OK. I already have the font, DM Sans, so there's no need for, if you are using a different font, it would have tell you to replace the font if you don't have the font installed in your PC. But in this case, I have the font, so I just click on OK. And I can quit this. And there you go, I have my brand guideline done for me. Actually editable, like it is, you can double tap and you can edit it. My brand guideline is editable. It is edited. All the slides are being brought in, and I can edit the slides if I want. I can edit the slides if I want, as you can see. And then coming down, you can see the different pages. They are all there. So what I need to do now is that in this place, I can just come over here. Where is the whole thing itself? Where is my, okay, it's up here. So what I can do now is I can just bring out this, since this is the one the client is going for, I can just bring everything that I need here. I can just bring them all out and just, uh, select everything and bring it out here. Maybe make a duplicate, of course. Then when it comes to this logo place, I can just bring this whole thing here and just bring it in here. I can bring it in here. I can delete this one off and just bring this here. Now you can see it's just a matter of replacing it with the one that they brought to me. So basically that is just it. Just come in here and just edit them. For this, I can just bring this into this place here, right here. So for this now, I just need to reduce the stuff. So this is the one that they gave to me. So I can make this to be white. So it already has the colors for me. So it already imported the styles, as you can see. All the color styles was imported, all of them, including the text style. So everything was brought in for me. But nonetheless, I could just highlight, just you know, use the color picker because those colors are really much. I'll need to work on them. So I can bring this in here, make a duplicate, which is also the same thing. Delete this one that they already have. Sorry, and then just bring in my own version. Just bring in my own version, and then for this other one, I can just bring this in here. Delete this their version, bring my own in, and just change the color to probably the blue because it's the main color. And then, as you can see, I just replace all of these things. Now, in this case, I might decide to use the blue or I can use the pure white in this case. So, and I can do the same thing here, come down here, just make a duplicate of this main logo here and just swap out the colors to match the different backgrounds. And I'm done. As you can see, editable, easy peasy. And when I'm done, all I need to do is to come down here and then all I need to do is to come down here and just make a duplicate of the different pages and then do the one for photography, do the one for the mockups and everything. And your brand guideline is done. You can now go ahead, proofread to make sure that all the text, everything, all these dashes, you make sure you proofread to remove them, and then, or you can even do that by choosing, go over to Figma, click on find, put the dash, or no, this dash, and then click on this to click on replace, and you can replace them with commas. And then it's just that the funny thing is that in this case now you might mistakenly where actually needs the dash. For example, now here needs the dash, and if you decide to replace all of them with commas, it then looks like a comma, which wouldn't make sense for that particular area. So you need to do those proofreading, and at least at the end of the day, this has done, should I say, 70% of the work of your brand guideline. These have done the 70% of the work, and you just need to edit, just replace where needs to be replaced, and you're good to go. So that is it for this class. I really hope you enjoyed it. Try it out for yourself. Just try whatever you can. AI is here. It is now left for you to utilize it and make your work faster and easier to implement. So if you love this video, do well to like, do well to share, drop your comments or your views about this whole thing in the comments. I'll go through them and reply you. And lastly, don't forget to subscribe, as this helps us to grow and it really encourages me. Thank you so much, guys. On to the next video. Keep living for creativity. Bye.